Howdy everyone, SOB here, joined once again with Snipey47A, and today
Woo.
we are on part 2 of our video series about the Triple Balance Pass. So this video is covering the captain abilities. There's a lot of changes here. And first up, we have Tactical. So, I should just take a step back. All captain abilities will now have a minimum cooldown below which they cannot be reduced. So I almost skimmed over this part. This means that we can't reduce everything to extremely low cooldowns now. Like before, we could have constant uptime on go down fighting. This means we can't. We haven't quite found the exact global cooldowns on things, but it's definitely looking like that ain't happening anymore. So now getting back to go down fighting. Go down fighting now scales damage much more aggressively as your HP decreases. On holodeck, a 0% GDF is 108% Cat 2 damage buff, whereas on Tribble, 0%, if you could stay alive for it, is now 150%. That 108% that it was before is what you'd get right around 15% HP. Now, a good day to die still works with GDF, but the GDF buff that you would get at level 50, which is what a good day to die would set it to if you're above 50, isn't as powerful as it is on holodeck. It's about I think it's at about 33-34% for holodeck having a 50 or 60 something damage buff, so that's a bit of a hit, but if you actually get a nice low GDF HP wise, it's a great change. Now, the other big thing to it is that go down fighting can no longer be activated while invincible or continuity are available to save you from death. This means no more easy GDFs, no more 0% GDFs. This is going to be a pain for DPSers to get those really low GDFs. But we did it for how many years before they introduced Invincible and Continuity, so once we got the pattern down again, I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. It just adds in a little bit of random risk to our runs, which we should have, being DPS really should be the glass cannons. Now, moving on to Attack Pattern Alpha. Most of this stayed the same. The only change to it is the duration has been decreased to 20 seconds. Now, we don't quite know what that global cooldown is, but 20 seconds is a significant hit. That's a third of Alpha just gone. You're going to have to be a bit more careful with where you activate Alpha. You can't just spam it like we do right now. Just need to make sure you're hitting it at places where you're actually going to benefit from it. Now, Tactical Fleet. The buff from Tactical Fleet has been slightly buffed from what it is on holodeck. It's now 20, 30, or 40% Cat 2 damage based on rank. And I forget what the value is on holodeck. Sniper, do you remember?
For TAC Fleet 3, it was around 37 or 38%, wasn't it? Cat 2?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's a small buff. It just makes the numbers easier to work with. And it also now buffs weapon specialization and amplification for the duration, so you get a little bit of crit chance and severity with it. That's a good change. Now, Last Ditch Effort. This is something that confused some people. It now gives plus 40 all damage resistance rating during go down fighting instead of plus 20. Now, a lot of people want to know, isn't that a nerf? On holodeck it shows plus 100. Well, what you're forgetting is it says plus 100%. It's got that percent sign after it. So GDF itself was given just the 20% resistance, and this was doubling it.
Now, in relation to captain abilities for engineering, this is where I think some of the most interesting changes have occurred, and it's going to significantly lift the performance of an engineering captain. We'll start with Nadion inversion. Nadion inversion has received a reduction to weapons power drain for the firing of energy weapons, and it has been significantly increased. It is very similar ability to a DOF that people used to spend millions of VC for a long time ago, called Marion Francis Delmar, who basically did the same thing as Nadion inversion for 15 seconds when directed energy modulation is active. This ability has a 3-minute cooldown, and we have been able to get it very close to its global cooldown. At the time it's almost finishing. It's 15-20 seconds, somewhere around there, using all hands on deck. And this ability, which I'll talk about a little bit when I go through the next one, I think is going to be very important for engineering captains. Alright, let's talk about EPS Power Transfer. EPS Power Transfer has received some attention during this rebalance. They fixed it so you can no longer stack it against one player if you've got multiple engineers in your team, and I think due to the changes that were made, that is a pretty smart thing to do. Buffs are now plus 10, plus 17.5, or plus 25 depending on rank. The power it gives to the subsystem is instant. It doesn't depend on your EPS, and it doesn't build over time, it just adds instant power. The biggest thing of this, it actually increases the hard cap to your subsystems for the duration of the effect, which is 30 seconds. So it will increase the maximum power level of all your subsystems to 150. 150, and it will stack with other max subsystem increases. So like for example, the Kelvin 4-piece set, which individually the consoles increase the maximum capacity of your subsystems to 128. If you had this ability active, that will increase it to 153. Okay. Now, and finally, the power transfer rate, or your EPS, has been buffed significantly, and at rank 3 it's 250%. So I think for engineers, it's going to be very important for you to use your EPS Power Transfer, Nadion inversion together when possible. Okay, and here's the reason why. EPS Power Transfer will lift your hard cap of your weapons power to 150 or higher if you've got other increases on there. And Nadion inversion will pretty much ensure that you do not use very much weapons power firing all your weapons. So your damage calculation for all your weapons is going to be very close or on 150 if you use these abilities together. Now, Cryptic Captain made that very easy for you. The EPS Power Transfer does have a 2-minute cooldown. We were able to get it to 0 seconds without hitting its global using AHOD, but Nadion inversion, as I just went through, has a 3-minute cooldown. So you have to make the choice whether you're going to activate one separately or together. Now, how much does that add to your damage if you were to have 150 weapons power? So the same graph that I attached, albeit late, to the previous episode's post, I've amended here, and I will put that up this time. It shows that above 125 to 150, you get a 12% increase to your weapons, to the damage of your weapons. Now, I've actually gone a little bit further as well, to 160. Now, this will potentially impact Romulan and Klingon captains, because they have access to a console called the Enhanced Plasma Manifold, which does increase weapons, shields, and engines plus 10 to maximum subsystem power for 30 seconds. And EPS transfer will go on top of that. So theoretically, for 30 seconds, you can have 160 weapons power, and that will add 18% damage to your weapons over and above 125 for that duration. Okay, next ability we're going to talk about is Rotate Shield Frequency. So now, Rotate Shield Frequency has been given a slight buff. It now bonus resistance to incoming shield drains. and this is specifically said bonus resistance, so it's not the normal resistance or shield resist, it's a percentage over and above your current shield resistance. Now, I haven't been able to test this, I don't have a developed engineering team to take this into an ISA and see how the spheres drain my shields, but it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. Now, heal values have been increased at each rank. The amount of resistance now scales more aggressively with shield power, and with Eps Power Transfer and a proper skill tree, you can pretty much have your shield power above 125. Next one is Miracle Worker. Miracle Worker has received a significant buff to its hull heal, and you can keep increasing that by adding hull restoration points. It does also now have a secondary shield effect which does last for 15 seconds, so it does heal your shields as well and then puts a secondary shield over that. The cooldown is still 4 minutes, and we were able to get it down to hit global at about a minute with all hands on deck, just slightly less. Engineering Fleet is the last captain ability. Engineering Fleet has received some love as well. Its damage resist buff is now bonus damage resist. Now, for those people who do not know what bonus damage resist is, it is a bonus increase to your existing resist rate that doesn't have the same diminishing returns curve as normal damage resist. So it can bring your damage resist over the hard cap of 75. Okay, and that does increase at rank 3 by 40 bonus damage resist. It does boost additional hull capacity during the duration, and it also has commonized buffs based on rank like the other two careers. Same as the other two careers, cooldown is 5 minutes. And finally, the trait Eps Manifold Efficiency. It has now been increased to 30 seconds to match any emergency power to ability. So weapons, shields, engines, and auxiliary. Activate any one of those and you will get an increase to your current power levels for 30 seconds. So I think that these changes to captain abilities done by Spartan has brought engineers back. It'll be interesting to see how much back they've been brought though. Yes, the increase to the hard cap of weapons power so that your weapons do fire at a higher damage rate, and you can have the captain does have an ability to keep the power level steady while the weapons are firing with Nadion inversion. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the real game and see how competitive an engineering toon is compared to the other two careers.
So to go through the science captain ability changes. Okay, so each ability has been tweaked by Cryptic, and interestingly, science has one science ability has been replaced and been made as a bridge officer ability that any career can have access to. Okay, so we'll start with Scattering Field, which is a damage resist buff. Okay, now this no longer forces you into combat for the duration, so you can be protecting yourself damage resist wise and not be active in combat, which means you are able to go into full impulse and do other things that you need to do out of combat, like recover hull faster and that sort of. The other key change to this is that currently on holodeck, the duration of the buff didn't allow for the cooldown of the ability to start. Okay, that's been fixed. So the cooldown of the ability, which is 3 minutes, okay, will start from the moment that you click the button. We're still a little bit, still don't exactly know where global is on this. Playing around with the all hands on deck trait, we are hitting it. We are hitting it very close to when it was meant to finish its countdown anyway. So the next one is Photonic Fleet. Okay, so Photonic Fleet is the hologram ships that science brings in, and they attack your foes. Okay, so the damage, health, and shields of ally ships summoned has been significantly increased. Okay, so I'll be doing some testing on that one very shortly. I do expect it to be on the same scale as what has happened to PETs and to the Milan and KDF fleet support. The other thing that they've changed is that they have given a increased chance for Photonic Fleet 2 to summon in the battleship. Okay, so the battleship is what you want to bring in. Its torp spread is just devastating. It's very similar to the attack fleet for Federation. The next one is the Science Fleet. Okay, so Science Fleet now additionally boost Starship control expertise and shield systems for the duration, and being a fleet ability, this affects everybody on the team, and it's similar to what's happened with TAC Fleet. There is no like a uneven number. It's depending on the rank, it's 20, 30 or 40. Okay, now the ability that has been lost by Science as a captain ability anyway is Subnucleonic Beam. Okay, so Subnucleonic Beam was a way of wiping buffs from your enemy and slowing their tray recharge rates of their abilities. Okay, so this has now become a buff ability with different ranks, and we'll go through that in the next video. But to replace that, and that's called Deflective Overcharge. Okay, so this ability, and you can think of it as the Science version of Attack Pattern Alpha that TACs get. It significantly increases exotic damage, and it's bonus exotic damage. Okay, so not just an increase to the stat, it's an increase to the it's a percentage increase on what you already achieve. Okay, and this also increases shield healing while active, and also boosts your control expertise and drain expertise. Okay, the cooldown on this ability is exactly the same as Attack Pattern Alpha, which is 1 minute 30, and we're assuming that the commonalities with Attack Pattern Alpha are on purpose and also to offset some of the changes to the ultimate ability of the Science skill tree, which we'll be discussing in the next video as well. So that's it for Captain abilities. We're signing off for this video now. Next video to be released very shortly is about the changes to bridge officer abilities, and there is a lot of them. So any last words, Spencer?
Not much really to say here. There's a lot of good changes, a lot of interesting things. I look forward to seeing how it all plays out and how the entire player base, reacts to it.
Yeah, so thank you very much, guys, and we will see you next time.